Hello YouTube, Alex here with Alex's Agamids. A lot of you guys ask me about enclosure setup, heating, lighting, and I've got videos on heating and lighting for Chinese water dragons. However, should I say, in the heat of the moment, I had an idea that I feel like might help some of you guys out, and that is 3 things that I feel every Chinese water dragon setup needs to have in order for it to be successful in maintaining your lizards, of course, because after all, even I'll tell you guys, currently 9 years of keeping Chinese water dragons and 4 years of breeding them now, I still feel like I'm learning something every year. Either way though, this is my Animal Plastics A35 enclosure. If you're not familiar with this enclosure, click the card right up here. It shows you how I built it. And this is what houses my male Chinese water dragon Ozzy. I have my DIY plywood enclosure for my female over there. However, that enclosure setup is covered in another video, so if you want to see that video, click the card right up here. Now, you've got a Chinese water dragon enclosure. Specifically, in this video, I'm referring to adult setups. You want to make it look nice and deck it out, and that's wonderful. But what if I told you that even the most beautifully decorated water dragon enclosure can be absolutely useless? I'm talking about the aspects of your enclosure, the lighting, the security, and adequate ventilation. Those are the 3 things I'm going to cover now. And in my opinion, an Animal Plastics cage allows for all 3. So, we're going to start with number 1, security. When I'm talking about security, this may sound stupid, an enclosure that the lizard cannot break out of. Here's Ozzy Man. He's just finishing up a shed, and you can see he's looking rather dapper. Well, he's got his crest flared up for all of you guys, so he's looking good. But this has got really big, heavy sliding glass doors, and this is a cage made out of 1/2 inch thick PVC. Like, I can really beat this up. Now, maybe to you guys, my interior decorations don't look that pretty. I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't care because I suck at cage decorating. So the point is that this enclosure is very secure. It's structurally strong. It is well built. And at the same time, I don't have to worry about this enclosure molding from high humidity. Whereas in my plywood cage, you guys will remember if you've watched the video, I had to seal it with water-based polyurethane. PVC is a plastic-based material. I see a lot of people that try and do DIY enclosures and they put a screen top enclosure on a fish tank, which I've already gone over how awful those are to use for water dragons. But this enclosure, I know it sounds stupid, he cannot break out of this. Honestly, shameless plug, right now the American hobby is fighting for our rights to keep reptiles as pets. Like Ozzy here, I would not be able to keep him if it weren't for laws that allow me to do so. And so organizations like USARK allow me to be a member, and they fight for my rights to keep animals like Ozzy. Here's the issue. It only takes one idiot with a water dragon, with an iguana, with a Nile monitor that breaks out of its enclosure, and then that person makes the reptile community look bad. I do not want to be that person, so that's why I invest in quality caging that my animals can't break out of, even if it is something as harmless as a water dragon like Ozzy here. Despite him being very cantankerous and doing his thing, man, he is really showing the color display today. He looks phenomenal. For any of you guys wondering, I got him back from a friend, and so that's why his nose is rubbed, and that's why he's missing some spikes. His body has been healing quite fine. I'm just going to get him back in his cage. He loves to come out, and I'm just trying to keep him on camera for y'all. And so that's one of the biggest things that I cannot emphasize enough is security. Point number 2. This is something that I found out living in the Midwest. And I guess point number 2 also correlates into point number 3. For starters, keep your lights on the inside of the enclosure. In summary, this is a species, Chinese water dragons, that need very high humidity and they need very warm temperatures. My room on a good day is like 78 degrees. That is not hot enough for them. You want your air temperatures to be in the 80s. And the only way you're going to do that is if you have your lighting and heating mounted on the inside. If I had a screen section in this enclosure, unless my room was 85 degrees, it would be utterly useless because heat and humidity rise, it would go out of the screen. I rest my case. I didn't really want to dive into screen sections too much because as long as you have your heat and your UVB lights and everything in between, my big visible lights, they're all mounted on the inside so that way that heat and humidity stays trapped in. So when I open this door and close it, everything forms like a giant sauna in there. But I guess I had the door open. Do note, and I'll put a older video that I took in here right now, the air in here can stay 80% humidity, as you guys are seeing right now. And yet, do you notice how in any of my videos, aside from these water stains on the glass, there's no moisture that's built up? When you are keeping a high humidity species, that's great. You want to have 80% humidity, but airflow is very important. I keep my fan on high. Like all of these cages, my snakes, my water dragons, they have a ton of air that's moving through and around the enclosures. So we cannot take for granted that if we have a high humidity environment, we need good ventilation. But how much or how little is considered good? Well, for starters, again, this is an animal plastics cage. I have vents on the back and on the side. Sorry for it's kind of hard to see because I have you guys right next to my lights. But the point is that when this air from the fan moves down and in between my enclosures, there is cross ventilation. There's air that's moving from one end of the enclosure to the other. So that way, even though this cage is hot and miserable, which Ozzy loves, I personally do not, there is enough airflow that the air is not stagnant. Stagnant air breeds bacteria. Stagnant air will cause a respiratory infection for your water dragon. People either don't keep them humid enough and they get a respiratory infection, or you keep them too humid with not enough airflow and they get a respiratory infection. With this video, I wanted to emphasize ventilation is important, having a secure cage is important, and of course, installing all of your lighting and heating on the inside so your water dragon is nice and healthy like Ozzy here. I'm Alex with Alex's Agamids. This is Ozzy. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Adios.